What up, what up, what up, everybody? This is the Dr. Football Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dennis Tien. I am coming to you remote tonight from my real live medical office in Dedham, Massachusetts. The patients are gone, the doors are locked, and I am here talking football. Joining me, as always, is the CEO of Hedge Better himself, Justin Fine. Justin, we had a full docket for tonight before the huge breaking news that just happened, which is the announcement that Drake Maye will be starting this week against the Houston Texans. So I'm going to take the roster and notes I had for the podcast, and I'm going to rip them up, just like the Patriots have apparently ripped up this plan that we've been hearing about for the last 3 months, the plan that they had. And we are going to start with the huge story of the Patriots starting Drake Maye for the first time this Sunday.
Yeah, and you know what? It's about time. I gotta say, I love that he's starting. I kind of hate that they're starting him in this spot as opposed to some of the other opportunities that they had, specifically last week at home against Miami. Like, if Drake Maye starts that game, they probably win. You know, it's a big difference being 2-3 as opposed to being 1-4. And he would have had a much softer landing. You got to start him against a good Texans team, and that's not going to be easy. But let's just be happy that he's out there and we're getting a chance to see him develop in what we have.
Agreed. And look, overall, it doesn't really matter whether they started him last week or this week or next week. I don't think that's really going to change the course of his career, whatever Drake Maye is or isn't. But I agree with you 10,000% that, and I've been team play Drake the whole time.
Yeah.
I want them to play Drake Maye. And I was adamant that they should play him last week against Miami. I'm happy they're playing him this week against Houston, Justin, but I think it's idiocy that if they were this close to playing him, why didn't they just play him last week against Miami? Because it is just such a better landing spot. You're throwing him out there this week against a Houston defense, a 4-1 team that just made Josh Allen look like absolute crap last Sunday, one of the better defenses in the league. This is not a great landing spot for Maye to come in and begin his career. You hit the nail on the head. They probably win that game last week if Drake Maye is the quarterback. Nice, soft landing spot at home with a victory against a team that was handing you the game. That was the place to put him. What this really shows me, Justin, is that the Patriots had absolutely no plan for this, as much as they said they had a plan.
Well, it makes me think that maybe they did have a plan, and unfortunately, maybe that plan was to wait even longer, right? Like it seems to me like the plan was to ride Jacoby Brissett into the grounds, right? Maybe even past the halfway, mid-mark point in the season. Who knows how long they intended on starting him. And I think it got to the point where, something had to give and they were forced to bring Drake Maye in earlier than I think they wanted to. That's what it tells me. It tells me they had a plan, and that plan was to wait a while. And that's super frustrating because we're seeing all three rookie quarterbacks now with winning, besides Drake Maye, with winning records, being impactful. And we're sitting here with just an absolute, clown show on offense, waiting for our heir apparent to come in and do something. And it's sad that it took this. The other thing I'll say is I can't imagine the week of the extra development he got outweighs the landing spot that he would have had in Miami and the benefits that it would have brought in us winning that game. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
10,000% agree with that. I'm sorry. There was no plan in place. Like, I don't see how anyone could say that the plan was to start him against the Houston Texans. That is probably, short of the San Francisco 49ers, one of the worst landing spots to put Drake Maye. So I just look at this, and as much as I am happy that they're playing Drake Maye, I think the larger issue here is, Justin, this is another reflection on the fact that the leadership of this organization is increasingly showing us they're profoundly dysfunctional.
Yeah, at least what they're showing us is that their plan didn't work, right? Like, I don't know if, I don't know, maybe you'd call them dysfunctional at this point. They might be a little dysfunctional. To me, I think they're wrong. they were wrong. They got it wrong. They came in with the wrong approach to the season, and it backfired. And now they have to scramble and put another Band-Aid over the problem and say, hey, we're going to start Drake Maye in probably one of the worst spots to start him possible during this calendar year.
But what I find concerning is like if they were really that clear as an organization that Drake Maye was this close to playing, how do you not have the awareness to just put him out there against Miami and make it a better situation for him? That shows to me what you just said, that they're actually flying by the seat of their ass and they have absolutely no idea like what their actual plan was. I don't think they really knew, or at any point.
Well, look, if they were adopting that whole Packers philosophy, why are we even so confident that he would have been starting at all this year had Jacoby Brissett not really forced their hand? You know what I mean? Like, that's really what it seems like. I think the play, like, and again, you seem to think there wasn't a plan. I lean towards there was a plan, and the plan was to get away with Jacoby Brissett for as long as they could before they were forced into starting.
I'll
Drake
put it
Maye.
this way. I don't think there was a plan. There was probably like 5 different plans. I think Robert Kraft had a plan. Elliot Wolf had a plan. Gerard Mayo had a plan. Alex Van Pelt had a plan. And I don't think they're all on the same page. And I really think that's what this decision today shows us, is that there was internal disagreement and struggle around this decision. If they were all on the same page, we're not going to play Drake Maye till week 12, say.
Yeah.
Or we're not going to play Drake Maye till 2025, say.
Yeah.
Whatever it was, then why aren't they sticking to that even through weathering the storm? We all knew this team was going to probably not be that good. So why make this all of a sudden move to change it, right? And it's because they weren't all on the same page. There was Gerard Mayo, who probably wanted to play Drake Maye from week 1. There was Elliot Wolf, who probably wanted to put him in bubble wrap. Everyone else may be somewhere in the middle. I think they were flying by the seat of their ass. And I think that finally now, because Brissett has been so poor, the pressure is mounting. I think the locker room is on the verge. I don't want to say mutiny, but I think there's a lot of tension in that locker room from the fact that they're not playing the best quarterback on the roster. Add it all up, and they made the decision that, frankly, I'm thrilled they did it, but I just don't think they really did it on the right terms.
I agree. Yeah, no, I agree. And I wonder too, I wonder if this decision was fully Gerard Mayo's at this point in time, or if, the word came down from upstairs, hey, I don't care if you think he's ready or not. Drake Maye's starting next week.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I would hope that the Crafts would not have a role in this, but you have to wonder with the timing and just the fact that, things are getting bad, right? I'll tell you right now, I'm a season ticket holder. The Patriots are 1-9 in their last 10 games at home. I've been to all 10 of those games. I was not going to go this week against the Texans. I've had enough. Like, I was like, you know what? I'm giving my tickets away. Yeah. I'm a loyal fan, but they're not playing. They're not playing with a purpose. And I need a break. I'm going now because Drake Maye is playing. You better believe I'm going to be there for that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Look, I think it's what everybody in New England needed. It's what the team needed. It's what the organization needed. It's what the fans needed. Like, 1-4, looking pathetic, losing some winnable games. I think the frustration was mounting across the board, and I think this was the break glass in case of emergency. This was what was needed, I think, to kind of get everybody back in feeling good about where this organization could potentially stand.
Yeah, I guess so, Justin. I don't know. It just feels like it's kind of done haphazardly. When I really think about it, and again, I fully wanted them to play Maye, so I'm thrilled they're doing it. But
right.
This was going to be the open and take before they announced the decision to Maye, and I think it ties in a lot to what we're talking about. So I'm just going to throw it out there, which is that there were 5 teams last year that drafted a quarterback in the first round, right?
Yeah.
Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, and Jaden Daniels, right? And then you had 2 others, Michael Penix and JJ McCarthy, right? Well, Williams, Nix, and Daniels, all those teams went in, were playing our rookie, surrounded them with talent, and we're rolling with it, right? The other two teams, they went in and they brought in a competent backups. They surrounded those backups with good players, and they made a viable plan to bridge until their young quarterback was ready. I mean, look at Atlanta. Look at Minnesota's 5-0. Atlanta's 3-2, threw for 500 yards the other night. The Patriots did neither of those things. They did not do either of those two strategies. Those five franchises had plans, and they're sticking to them, right? The Patriots just flew by the seat of their ass, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of did. I will say, I think, and maybe I was just fooled, but I had a little bit higher expectations for Jacoby Brissett. I mean, I thought, and I
I
remember
was
us
going to ask you about that because I know you did.
and that's kind of the thing. I thought at the time we were getting a competent bridge quarterback, somebody that, could have at least looked somewhat decent. I think for whatever reason, we were all fooled. I think it's looking back on it now. I think it's crazy to think that Jacoby Brissett in this current state could have been brought in as a viable option for a team that wanted to compete and play meaningful football.
Well, just a word about that. If you go back and you look at Brissett's career stats or the last couple times that he's actually gotten meaningful playing time, and his performance this year has been far worse. Whatever it is, whether he's older,
right,
or this team is just that bad, or the coaching is just that bad. I mean, I think what you thought you were getting, and what I initially liked the Brissett signing too,
right,
and I still do. I still, in a sense, do, because to me, Brissett was a locker room guy, a guy that could start a couple games. I had no problem with them bringing in Brissett if that was the plan. The problem was when it looked like they were going to extend that deep into this year, they should have brought in a better bridge quarterback. Then so we got to bring in a Justin Fields or a Gardner Minshew or a Kirk Cousins or someone like that if you really didn't want to play Drake Maye this year.
Yeah, exactly. And it looks like that, again, it looks like that was their plan. It looks like their plan was to keep Drake Maye on the sideline as long as possible. Jacoby Brissett clearly proving not to be the guy that could come in and help us compete in the interim. I mean, look, the guy, like I said, I expected him to come in and do a little bit more. Maybe he's a little bit older. Maybe he's a little bit, past his prime. But I just didn't expect it to be this bad, if I'm being honest. I didn't expect it to be great, but I didn't expect it to be this bad.
Well, you said multiple times that you thought that just bringing in someone that didn't turn the ball over would be a huge upgrade over what the Patriots had last year. And that really actually proved to be wrong. Like, this offense was actually better with Mac Jones as the quarterback.
Yeah. And it's, you know what? It's because I really didn't think that, yes, I didn't want turnovers, but I didn't think that the offense would be this stagnant, like this decrepit. Like, it literally looks lifeless. And I at least thought we would see a little bit more than that.
Yeah. And you have to wonder too. I mean, Brissett's not the only factor in that. Let's be fair about that. There are a lot of other things going on, but I will say too, Justin, like, look, I don't think Drake Maye is going to solve all their problems. In fact, I think this is going to be kind of ugly. It's probably going to be ugly on Sunday. I think this offensive line is bad, but I don't think it's as bad as it's looked the last few weeks. I think Brissett makes them look worse. We talked about that last week because of the way that he plays the game. But I think that even still, like, you're bringing in a rookie 21-year-old quarterback that started 2 seasons in college. He's a super talented guy. But if you have expectations, anyone out there, that this is going to suddenly look better or be fixed, you're wrong. This is going to probably be gruesome for a few weeks, but this is what it means. You're hoping that Drake Maye develops into something, and you have to put him out on the field in order to get that development from him. The reality is, I would expect a couple rough weeks here at the start.
Yeah, I'd expect a couple rough weeks too. I think he's obviously going to have to come in and settle in and find his own. And it's very tough to come right out the gate, especially in the middle of the season, and just kind of assume the role of starting quarterback, especially for a rookie. I will say too, one thing, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix, like Caleb Williams, all kind of starting right out the gate. I think it's worth noting the experience that was under those guys' belts, right? Like, Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels, I believe, played like 5 years of college football, right?
Yep.
Like, they were long time starters. Caleb Williams, 3 years in a better conference than Drake May, right? So, you know what? Fair enough. They were maybe a little bit more ready to potentially start week 1. But at this point, Drake May's got to get out there, and he's got to get comfortable. And like you said, I think it's going to take a couple weeks before we really see him start to get into a groove.
What I would tell Patriots fans is to look back to Drew Bledsoe's rookie year. Use Bledsoe as the perfect analogy. He came in first game, got pummeled in Buffalo. They lost like 35-20 or something like that. He also threw a couple touchdown passes, and it looked a lot better, even though they were losing by double digits. They started off that season 1-11. He got hurt. He missed a few games. But even in some of those losses, you could see that he was elevating the play of guys around him. They had a passing game for the first time in like 8 years.
Yeah.
It looked a lot better. It's going to be little kernels of positives that you're going to have to look for from Drake May. And the hope is, like with Bledsoe, by the end of this year, you feel confident you had something. Bledsoe won his last 4 games in 93, and he looked awesome by the end of the year, and you knew you had a good player. You have to hope for the same kind of thing with May. But the first few weeks are going to be rough.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they will be rough. And I think as Patriots fans, we have to set the expectations. Like, look, we're getting what we wanted. We wanted Drake May out there. We wanted to see him. We want to see how this football team looks with him, how this offense runs with him. But we're not going to get the full picture for a couple of weeks, at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little, Justin. Let's change subjects. And we're talking so much about the quarterback thing the last few weeks. And I understand why, because it's obviously the top story right now surrounding the team. Fine. It's obscuring attention away from the fact that this team has been extremely poorly coached so far this year. And you can go back to the episodes we recorded when they hired Gerard Mayo. And I said I was super concerned about Mayo's lack of experience. And what I want to talk about with you now is the fact that I've seen nothing in these 5 weeks to really allay those concerns. They got a perfect storm miracle win in Cincinnati where everything went right for them. They won the game. It called the dogs off for a few weeks. You could see the seeds planted in the Seattle game. A lot of things they didn't do right in that game potentially cost them the game. Clock management, penalties, other things. The last 3 weeks have been downright gruesome. If you check the box of poorly coached team bingo, right? Penalties, clock management, undisciplined play, locker room problems, questionable play calls. They've hit them all the last 4 games. I'm worried, Justin, about the fact that this team looks like a team that's being coached by a guy that's never coached an NFL team before right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly tough to look at them and call them a well-coached team. I mean, the last couple of weeks have been super tough. You know, the New York Jets game, they looked awful. The 49ers game, I thought they looked awful too. And then, you know, this week, you know, you can't even go out and beat this Miami team. I mean, we talked about the Seattle game, we talked about the Miami game, and I think we both said to each other that this team should be 3-2, right? Realistically, they should be 3-2 at this point. And the reason they're not is because they started to make stupid mistakes and have 50-50, you know, plays go against them. And that was the exact opposite of what happened in week 1. The inability to convert and get a field goal at halftime, right before halftime of the Miami game, the 33-yard or whatever it was, 30-something yard miss in the first half. Like, these are all things that poorly coached teams, I feel like, do to lose the games in these situations. And that's what they're doing. They're not helping themselves out in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I mean, it's really been a litany of mistakes. And at the end of the day, I'm sorry. Like, I do feel like it all comes back to the head coach. I mean, you took and you replaced the most experienced and game smart head coach in the league, even with all his terrible things he did the last 5 years, with a guy that has absolutely no experience. And I think it's showing. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Let's talk a little bit about the game on Sunday, Justin. A lot to talk about. I feel like from that loss. First of all, Scott Zolak at the end of the game called it the worst loss of the post Brady era. Do you agree with that take?
The worst loss of the post Brady era. No, I don't think I'd call it the worst loss of the post Brady era.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think. I mean, they've had some gruesome losses.
They've had
I
some
mean,
really
they
tough
lost. They
losses.
lost to the Chargers 6-0 last year. That was awful. I was there. It
That
was
was
terrible.
awful. The game in Vegas on that botched lateral, whatever the hell that
Yep.
play was. Um, actually, two awful losses in Vegas: the botched lateral, and then the one uh, the
The drop pass from, was it Kendrick? Not Kendrick Bourne. Was it Aguiar who dropped the touchdown pass there?
yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
Devonta Parker dropped
yes,
one.
yeah, they've had a lot of bad losses. I mean, I think even opening the Mac Jones opening game when Ramondre Stevenson and what's his name, the other running back, the guy from Alabama that was here for a while, they both
Damian Harris.
Damian Harris, they both had crucial fumbles. Like, there's been a lot of bad losses for this organization, not only in terms of close games that they should have won, but games that they just haven't even looked competitive in. I think that Miami game, it's a bad loss in the sense that you probably should have won the game, but I don't think it's the worst loss post Brady.
Agreed. It was a bad loss though, and I think
Yeah, for sure.
it was a bad loss because I thought Miami really handed the game to them on a plate. I thought Miami consistently shot themselves in the foot from the beginning to almost the end of that game. I thought if Miami came out and played a clean game, they
Yeah.
would have won that game by like 14 points. Look at the yards, first downs, time of possession. Miami dominated that game, but they tried to give it to the Patriots.
Yeah.
And the Patriots gave it right back to them. Didn't want it. Said, here, no, it's also you have it. At halftime of this game, the Patriots had 3 first downs and 50 passing yards. I mean, that's pathetic, Justin.
Pathetic. And unfortunately, but that's been like, I feel like par for the course for this offense. I mean, they looked they looked awful. And it just, again, I'm sitting there watching it and I'm going, how is Drake May not out there? Like, it can't get any worse than this. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. What was the final score? Was it 15 to 10?
Yep, 15 to 10.
Yeah, 15 to 10. I mean, look, your offense has been awful. You've not been able to score points. I mean, it was just so tough to watch. Especially when you're missing field goals, when you do get the very few opportunities that present themselves. It was just a really tough way to watch them go down. I mean, you held the other team to 15 points and you lose. And then that heartbreaking play at the end, Jalen Polk doesn't get the heel down. It was a good effort, but that's a tough
What are
catch.
your thoughts about that play, Justin? Because I got a couple observations. I mean, one is I think it's a stupid and ridiculous rule. I don't see how that's not a catch, but apparently it was the right call.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is, look, he was pretty open, and that throw kind of forced him to land the way he did. And then not only that, but after that, it was like all the wind was out of the sails. Like, that team had no shot once that call was reversed. They just completely crumbled.
They did. And I mean, you can talk about a lot of things leading up to that too, but how about the fact that Brissett sailed that throw? And I feel like
Exactly.
as much as people are complaining about the refs, that was a terrible throw. He threw it a rocket into the crossbar. He didn't need to throw it that hard or that high. The guy was wide open, and Brissett like threw it into the third row of the friggin' bleachers.
Exactly. Yeah. And exactly. And that was the first thing I thought of when I saw that, is that Brissett made that throw much tougher, or made that catch much tougher for Polk than it actually needed to be.
It should have been just like a routine catch. The guy was absolutely wide open.
Yeah, exactly. And there really wasn't anyone even near him. Like, it didn't even look like, it didn't even, it looked like he just got totally lost in the back of the end zone, and Brissett just totally dropped the ball there.
No question about it. It was a flag happy crew on Sunday, Justin. Personally, a lot of penalties. I didn't really see many bad calls, to be honest with you. To me, the penalties was less about the officiating crew wanting to throw flags and more about the fact that the Patriots were super sloppy and undisciplined. The Patriots had 14 penalties called against them on Sunday. 12 of them were accepted. There were some big game-changing penalties in there. And you know what? I didn't really feel like any of them were bad calls.
No, I thought most of them were good calls, and I'm glad you say that because I think when people hear that there's a ton of penalties, they just automatically assume that it was a poorly officiated game, the refs wouldn't let them play this and that. But look, if the shoe fits, you got to wear it, and it was a really sloppy game. This is a team that has been showing more and more the last couple of weeks that they're not as disciplined as maybe we were hoping they were going to be, or maybe we thought they were going to be after game one. Um, and again, just more when you do things like miss field goals and you can't convert and score on your opportunities or even create opportunities, and you're penalizing yourself through the roof. Like, how do you expect to win ball games?
Yeah, it's not going to happen. I mean,
It's not.
how about Christian Ellis on a 3rd and like 21, clobbering the Miami receiver on what would have been like a 4-yard completion and handing them a first down? I mean, you can't blame that on the official. That's just stupid football, not knowing the situation. And I'm sorry, reflection on the coaching, right? What did we hear for the last 20 years about Belichick? He coaches these guys to the situation. They know the situation. Nothing is left unprepared when Belichick prepares us for the game. And then you have Christian Ellis make a play like that. It's a bad reflection on the player. Yes, it's also a bad reflection on the coaching.
Well, and the fact that you got a guy like Christian Ellis out there, I mean, that's
Well,
another bad reflection, right? Like that's a guy that should not be seeing meaningful playing time on the field. I get it.
of
Yeah, they're down a couple people on defense, but again, it just speaks to the point that this is not a team that like prepared themselves for success.
Of course not, but he's out there,
Right.
and you have to know if you're an NFL player that if it's 3rd and 18 and the quarterback throws a 4-yard slant, let the guy catch it and then tackle him. Don't run into him. The other thing about that play, Justin, that's interesting, if you watch the replay of that play, is the fact that Ellis lined up on the wrong side of the ball and then at the last second ran across the field. So he was lined up incorrectly.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a little part of it as well. He was sped up, scrambling to get into position and then made a stupid play.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Insult to injury as we call it. But yeah, that's what happens when you have players out in the field that shouldn't be out in the field. They make stupid mistakes, and that was just costly all around. And I think this is starting to become a reoccurring theme, not only with this team this season, but how I mean, how much have we talked about this in the last couple of years since Brady left? That this is just a team that cannot stay out of their own way. They shoot themselves in the foot, and we a lot of that we were blaming Belichick for. Like we questioned whether that was a Belichick issue, and we're seeing more of the same thing here under Gerard Mayo in this whole new leadership structure.
Yeah, and that's a fair point. I mean, we saw a lot of this undisciplined football during the final years of the Belichick regime. So this is not a new thing. This has really been the last 4 or 5 years.
Yes, exactly.
What did you think, Justin, about the clock management? This has been now a problem in, I think, both of the games, close games they lost in the last few weeks. Clock management was terrible in this game in both halves. First of all, coming out at the end of the first half, Patriots gave Seattle an extra possession and ultimately a field goal because they did not run the ball at the end of the half when they should have.
Yep.
Huge mistake in clock management. This is rookie stuff that I know up in the stands. How did Gerard Mayo and Alex Van Pelt not know how to manage the clock?
I, I wish I had an answer for you. I mean, it's super frustrating. Um, this and it's again managing the clock was something that the Brady and Belichick Patriots did arguably better than anybody else for 2 decades. I mean, they were so good at using that end of the first half, beginning of the second
Yep.
half against you. Like that was a staple, right? You knew they were going to put up points at the end of the first half. They were going to get the ball back to start the second half and go put up points too. Like that was more often than not. And this is just a team that is having a tough time. And I think one of the reasons they're having a tough time managing the clock is because they're having a tough time functioning like a normal offense in figuring and just I think even understanding what their capabilities are in what they can do in the time allotted. Like I know it sounds crazy, but I really think this is a team that isn't confident in themselves in their abilities to manage the clock effectively.
If I remember correctly, at the end of the half, they took the ball pretty deep in their own territory with like a minute and change left. You have the worst offense in the league. You have to run the ball and make Seattle use timeouts and kill some clock there. You can't throw the ball and give Seattle an extra possession. I thought it was just awful. The other clock management thing, Justin, was at the end of the game, they're driving up the field for the drive that ended in the Jalen Polk non-catch. They have the ball with about 2 minutes and 45 seconds left. And they're at about the 35-yard line, 40-yard line of Miami. They have all their timeouts. Miami has all their timeouts.
Yep.
There's plenty of time left to score.
Yes.
Why are they running a hurry-up offense? Why weren't they running the ball more? Okay, the series that ended with the Polk non-catch, 1st and 10 at the 12-yard line. Run the friggin' ball. They were running for 8 yards a carry. There was no hurry, no urgency there. You have plenty of time. You can run the ball. Why are you putting the ball in Jacoby Brissett's hands 4 times on that last series? Made absolutely no sense.
No, it didn't really make any sense. Look, the only thing, and again, it doesn't make any sense to me, but the only thing that I could think of is you look at it and you say, okay, this is a team that clearly knows that they are not a big play offense. They're not a big play offense. They're not a chunk yardage offense. They're not a team that's going to be dangerous to score from anywhere in the field, right? I think they felt like they needed to get themselves as close to the goal line as quickly as possible, because when they found themselves in the situation that they did at the end, especially after penalties, when they got sent back another 10 yards, that team had no shot scoring from that far out. So I actually think that their philosophy might have been, we have to get down as close as we can, as quick as we can.
But I think they should have been thinking, okay, you actually want to bleed clock there. You don't want to let Miami have any time left and only need a field goal to potentially win or tie the game. So you have to run the ball there, especially because they ran the ball terrific on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, look, in hindsight, yeah, that was definitely the way to go. And you're right. I think even just watching the game, you probably were wondering why they were moving at the pace they were. Another coaching error. I mean, that's really what it comes down to, right? It was another coaching error.
It is another coaching error for sure. Pro Football Focus, Justin, has the Patriots special teams ranked best in the NFL through 5 weeks. What do you think about this unit? They're still making a few mistakes, but I mean, it's probably the one strength of this team right now.
I'm not saying that that's not the case. It's just when you blow a couple field goals that probably are the difference between being 3-2 and 1-4. It's tough to look at them and call their special teams the strength of this team, right? That may be the case, but I mean, look, you make that field goal against Seattle, you make that field goal in the first half against Miami, you probably are sitting there 3-2. So it's very tough to be like, yeah, this team is solid on special teams. That's their rock.
They did block a punt on Sunday.
They did, but
you know what? I'm going to tell you some honest to God truth. When they blocked that punt, I don't know if you remember that series. They didn't get any points off that. I think that was where they had the field goal, the missed field goal. They went 3 and out and missed a field goal. And I said to myself, as I was watching that is where they lost the game. For this team to win games, they need to turn breaks like that into points. The fact that they took 0 points off a block punt,
yep,
I knew that was going to come back to burn them.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Any thoughts on the crowd, Justin, on Sunday? I know I was there. You were watching on TV. I thought it was a good crowd for a team that lost 9 of its last 10 games in that stadium. I think it's the stadium was generally full. People were generally making noise. I mean, what can you expect for a team this bad? I think it was actually a pretty good crowd for a team that's been this terrible at home.
Good, and I'm glad. I'm glad that the crowd came out and the fans did their thing. I think that was probably part of the optimism that hey, this is a winnable game. This is a game that we should win. It'll be huge for us if we did, being 2-3 instead of 1-4. Um, and you just got more of the same. So I really hope. I will say the Drake May starting next week. I think no matter what happens this week, hopefully it'll ensure that you bring the crowd brings it next week. But after that, again, it's gonna be tough. I think you're really gonna hopefully not, but you're really going to be up against it in terms of like keeping that support and that home field advantage that we always used to love having here in New England.
There's no question about it that this team is infinitely more interesting with Drake May as the quarterback.
Yes.
This was a boring, unwatchable team for the last year and 5 games. And I mean, I don't know how much longer I could have stomached watching them, to be honest with you. And I'm as diehard as the diehards go, but it was just an unwatchable product. Once you put Drake May in there, win, lose, or draw, this immediately becomes at least some level of an entertaining product. There's at least some reason now to watch this team. People are going to come this Sunday because of Drake May. I am one of them. I would not have been there if May was not playing, but now I will be.
Yeah, and exactly. And I think that's what this team needs. Is this team needs a reason for people to be excited. And with this Jacoby Brissett led bunch, I think it was really tough to be excited about them. Week 1, they roped everybody in, and then the last 4 weeks they just let everybody down in dramatic fashion. So you know what, this is coming at the right time because I think
Do you
people
think do you think May would be playing if they had won this game against Miami?
no,
Yeah,
no, I don't.
me neither. So plan schman, right?
Yeah,
Obviously there was no plan. Flying by the seat of their ass. But it happened. It is what it is. And I will say again, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter whether he comes in against Houston, Miami, Jacksonville, whatever. Drake May is going to have to sink or swim on his own merits. I'm I'm so tired of hearing the don't break Drake, crew and wrap this kid in bubble wrap and don't play him for the year. And it's like, you shouldn't have drafted him if you didn't think you could get out there and make your team better. These guys are football players. He's the best player on the roster at a position. You have to play him.
I agree. I agree. He's got to be out there. You can't protect the kid in bubble wrap for forever. At a certain point, he's got to be out there, and he's got to be out there. I think this is really important. He's got to be out there when there is still meaningful football to play, because you don't want
Yep.
Drake May going out there when the rest of this team is packed it in and is planning where they're going golfing in the offseason. Like, you
Yeah.
want this team in this locker room engaged and ready to go out and compete when you bring Drake May in.
I agree 10,000%. All the more reason they should have played him last week against Miami. Win that game. You're 2-3. You're probably going to lose to Houston this week. And then you got about 5 or 6 games that are winnable, could have salvaged your season. It was a big error in judgment, kicking this can down the road. But in the grand scheme of things, Justin, it is what it is. The whole future of this franchise rests on the shoulders and the development of Drake May. This is a huge decision. I don't believe in the coach. I don't know if I believe in the GM. I'm having doubts about the owner, who I thought was the best owner in the league for 30 years. I don't know where there are building blocks on this roster. It really all comes down to Drake May elevating them, right? I think of Aaron Rodgers in his prime picking up Mike McCarthy, who is not a good coach, right?
Right.
If you have a good quarterback, it instantaneously will make your franchise. If Drake May is a good quarterback, he will solve a lot of these problems just by being a great quarterback. It's a lottery ticket, but it's time to scratch the lottery ticket.
Exactly. And I don't want this to come off in the wrong way, because certainly winning and playing meaningful football and in getting ourselves back in the hunt is something that I think we all want. But if Drake May comes out there and he looks good, he shows promise, He's improving each week. It's a noticeable difference right off the bat versus Brissett. I don't think the winning and losing is really going to matter as much. I think it's, you know what I mean? I think it's really going to be more so about, do we have a guy that we want to watch play football? He's good for the team, and we want to plan on keeping him here long term, and we're excited about what next season could potentially bring.
Agree with that. And I have no problem with them going out and having a rebuilding year this year,
Right.
or 3 to 4 win season again, if it's done with Drake Maye at quarterback.
Yes.
And if he shows promise and development and they only win 3 or 4 games, I can watch that, live with that, support that.
Yes.
If they won 3 or 4 games with Jacoby Brissett as quarterback, and we went into this whole offseason wondering what the hell Drake Maye was, I just can't get behind that. And I think it would be hard for a lot of people in New England to support that. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely.
In that locker room, because that's probably more important, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
All right, Justin, before we move to around the league, any more thoughts on the Pats?
No, just to state the obvious, super excited to see what Drake Maye brings.
Any positives from Sunday?
Any positives from Sunday?
I can give you 2.
The positives I would say is that I think
I got 3 positives.
I'll say the defense looks like they're still playing hard. I'll say that.
Yeah. That's fair. They played hard. How about Christian Gonzalez continues to develop?
Yeah.
Skeptical. I've been skeptical of Gonzalez.
Yes.
Thought Patriots fans put him up on a way too high a pedestal way too soon. Guy's looking like he continues to grow and develop. He's on the right path for a guy that's only played 8 games. Almost had what could have been a pick 6 in the back of the end zone if he had caught that pass against Tyreek Hill. Marte Mapu, we've never seen him before. I thought he looked good. He was all over the field.
Yep.
And I don't think the offensive line was that bad on Sunday. I really don't.
No, the offensive line, I think is taking a bad rap because of the quarterback playing, because of how poor the offense is looking. But no, I don't think it's as bad as people may think it was. And to your point, right? Christian Gonzalez, going back to his rookie year last year, I believe he had a pretty good game against Tyreek Hill when they played early on in the season. So I like that. I like that he's able to go out there, he's able to compete, and we want to see this guy keep growing and developing because he's supposed to be one of a few bright spots that we have left. So really like to see him keep progressing.
Yeah, I mean, he might be one of the only bright spots on this whole franchise right now.
Yeah,
but that's a start.
Yep.
The offensive line thing too. I'll end on this. Do you know, Justin, that Jacoby Brissett, they track advanced NFL stats on NFL.com, and the Patriots are 9th best in the NFL in time to throw. Jacoby Brissett is at 2.9 seconds to throw per attempt on average, which is 9th best in the league. I'm not saying they're a good offensive line. I'm not saying they're the 9th best offensive line in the league. But what I am saying is they might not be quite as bad as you think they are. And they run the ball well, too. That's going to help them with Maye, too.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. That's when I sit there and watch them, I don't think to myself, Jacoby Brissett can't breathe. I think to myself, what the hell is he still doing with the ball back there?
Right. It's a combination of factors.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. Before we move to around the league, Justin, we are going to bring back, I think, something we got away from the last few weeks. One of the highlights of our show every week.
Yeah.
The non-football topic of the week. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Great one for you. Okay.
All right.
I'm ready to trash things. What fall tradition that people do in the fall do you hate the most?
I got an easy one that comes to mind. Apple picking. I hate apple picking.
Oh.
It's just, you know what? Every girl wants to do it. They all want to go out and they always want to do it on a Sunday. Want to do it on a Sunday. To me, it's just the most overrated fall activity.
Going apple picking on Columbus Day is like ordering Chinese food on New Year's Eve. Yeah. You could order Chinese food any night of the year, and it is not a problem. Why do we have to order Chinese food on New Year's Eve when 10 billion other people are doing the same thing and it becomes a nightmare?
Yeah.
Same with apple picking. On Columbus Day, it is absolutely the worst day of the year to do it.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I've never been a big, apple picker. I know, every now and then it's nice if you got a family or whatnot, you go there for a date, but
No, it's worse if you have a family. It's not nice if you have a family. It's
oh,
worse if you have a family.
oh,
I have a family. I will confirm. It is 10. If you think apple picking sucks with Alyssa, wait till you have like 3 kids. Oh, it's going to suck 5,000 times more.
I could honestly, that doesn't shock me at all. You know what? It's in one of the reasons that come to mind is because this I'm slightly more okay with, but it's very borderline to apple picking, and that's pumpkin picking. Alyssa wanted to go pick pumpkins. Luckily, she didn't ask to pick an apple. At least with the pumpkin, you can pick it and then you can bring it home after and carve it and do something fun with it. Make a jack-o'-lantern out of it.
Yeah,
Something
I
like
mean,
that.
I would choose pumpkin picking over apple picking any
Yes.
day.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you buy a pumpkin, it is known that that is going to be wasted, right? You put
Yes.
it out, you decorate it, then after Halloween, you throw it out.
Exactly.
With apples, it's like a slow death. You first of all, they insist. Okay, my wife insists on
Yeah.
getting like 2 huge bags of apples. We went 2 weekends ago. Do you know what I have in my kitchen right now, Justin? I
Probably
have a
2 huge
huge
bags of
thing
apples. Yeah.
of apples. Yep. Has anyone made applesauce? No.
No.
Apple pie?
No.
Nope. Apple, whatever, anything? Nope, nothing. The kids take them, right? They take like 1 bite out of them or 2 bites out of them. And I like find them throwing in between couches, like underneath chairs, like anywhere, all throughout the house. Like a pack of squirrels have
Yeah.
broken my house. I'm finding like half-eaten friggin' apples everywhere. There's no point to it. It is my main objective when I take my kids apple picking is is to make sure that no one gets run over by the tractor. I don't even care about the apples. I just want them. They got that tractor barreling around, some like 17-year-old kid with a flannel shirt barreling around through the apple orchard. And I'm like, I'm just making sure he doesn't run over my kids. That's it.
Exactly. No, yeah. I can only imagine as a parent, it's got to be way worse. I remember as a kid too, how you get those memories as a kid. I remember one of my first memories as a very, very young child was getting stung by a bee while apple picking. It's just, I don't think I've ever gone and left and said to myself, oh, you know what? I'm sure glad we went apple picking today.
Yeah, because you're allergic to bees.
No, I'm not allergic to bees. It's just fucking, I was just a little kid and it hurt.
That's the only thing you're not allergic
Yeah.
to.
Yeah,
But if
exactly.
you are bee allergic, you can't go. Apple picking would be one of the worst places to
Oh
go.
yeah, I would imagine. Yeah, you got to stay away from the orchard.
What about Halloween, Justin? Like I used to love Halloween. I don't know. I know I'm getting old, but like I kind of feel like I've grown to hate Halloween a little bit for adults, anyways, in the last few years.
I'm still okay with Halloween. Last year we dressed up. We went to a Halloween party. This year I already got the costume picked out. We're gonna probably gonna dress up again and do something. You know what? It's
What
one
are
of
you
those.
doing? You already got the costume picked out.
I'm gonna be a Japanese sushi chef. I got the.
What is she going to be?
She still doesn't know yet. I picked my costume independently, actually.
Okay, I like it. I like it. You're not,
um,
now that you're married, you can just do whatever you want. You don't have to worry about it.
Exactly. But you know what? No, I like the thing that I like with Halloween is that it's still a night that you can be goofy and it should be a
All right.
judgment free night where you can just have fun and just not care.
It's amateur hour though. Like everyone's like, oh, it's like New Year's Eve. It's like mini New Year's Eve now.
Yeah, so that's the thing. You got to be doing the right activity, right? Like a Halloween party, maybe at like somebody's house,
Yep.
something local. You don't want to be at a bar. You don't want to
Right. You
be
want to be
doing,
down at Faneuil Hall with
yeah,
like all yeah.
exactly. It's very dependent on the activity that you choose.
What about people that put Halloween decorations up? I kind of hate that too.
Yeah, I think with Halloween decorations, to me, it's all or nothing. Like you
You
either
really
do.
need a giant skull in your front lawn.
No, you don't. But here's the thing: I will say, the people that love Halloween, if you're gonna put decorations up, you better go all out, right? You better have the house in the neighborhood that everyone's talking about. Don't just put up a couple of a little measly decorations and say you decorated for Halloween. Either do nothing or go all out. I don't think there should be an in between. It's not like Christmas, Christmas, some people, they go all out. Some people put up a little wreath. Some people do a little this, little that. I think with Halloween, you either got to go all out or you do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, some people really go all out now too. Like this has become a thing now in the last few years. You get those houses. Like there's a couple houses around me that have like 10 of these like giant inflatable demons or I don't know, zombie things. It's like you got people that really go all out like Christmas, right?
You do. And you know what? The reason why I'm okay with it and why I want people to still go all out is because at the end of the day, right? That's what, can make or break a kid's trick or treating experience, right? I mean, I still remember houses as a kid that we went to and, where I grew up and that, would go all out and, you had the fun experiences there when you were a little kid trick or treating, right? So I at least like that it's adding value to the trick or treaters and that hopefully, maybe it'll be a good memory for some of them. But if you're not going to go all out, don't do it. Just have your candy ready, and there you go.
Get out of the way.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to around the league now. In summary, we both hate apple picking. You like Halloween and I hate it. And you like Halloween decorations and I kind of don't. In summary. All right, let's move on to around the NFL.
Yeah.
I want to start, Justin, the big news around the league today. You nailed this 2 weeks ago on this podcast. First coach fired, Robert Saleh. To me, this is a huge mistake. I don't think Saleh is a bad coach. The problem with the Jets is Aaron Rodgers. He looked like absolute dog crap the last 2 games, or the last 2 games. I think they made a big mistake bailing on Saleh too soon.
I do too. I mean, look, this was a Jets team that through 5 games, their defense still didn't give up more than 23 points, right? And that 23 points was to a Minnesota Vikings team that's been red hot. If Zerline makes that kick against the Broncos, that's an easy win. If Aaron Rodgers hits a wide open Garrett Wilson this past week against the Vikings, that should be a win, right? And now we're sitting here talking about a 4-1 Jets team, right? And Saleh is most likely still here. So the defense has not been the problem. It's been Aaron Rodgers. I mean, this offense has not looked good. The special teams hasn't been fantastic. And let's face it, Robert Saleh was the scapegoat. Aaron Rodgers, he came to the Jets team and it instantly became his locker room, his organization, and he was going to decide the direction, the way things went. Him and Saleh have been butting heads for a while, and Saleh was the sacrificial lamb.
How can they put all their eggs in Aaron Rodgers' basket? He's 40 years old. He has 1 foot out the door. He hasn't been fully committed to that organization since day one in terms of like going to camps, going to mini camps. He's not like Brady was in Tampa Bay. He's been half-ass. He's at the end of the road. His play on the field this year has been absolute crap, save for a game against the Patriots where he looked like the Rodgers of old. What does that say about the Patriots, by the way? How do you double down on this Aaron Rodgers experiment and put all your eggs in this guy's basket? Aaron Rodgers is probably going to be gone at the end of this year.
Well, I'll tell you why they're doing it, because it's the only hope they got. I mean, this has been an organization that's been devoid of a franchise quarterback since what, Chad Pennington? I mean, if even, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, this team is so desperate for a franchise quarterback. They have some good talent on the roster. They're clearly in win now mode. And I think they just made a business decision and they said, Aaron Rodgers is our guy. He's the one we have put all our eggs in this basket, whether it's the right move or not. That's what we did. And we have to act accordingly. And they did.
The problem with that Jets team is the offense, not the defense. It's exactly. Aaron Rodgers and it's Paul Hackett, who had a terrible run in Denver and got hired in New York because of his relationship with Aaron Rodgers. The Jets just put all of their eggs in those 2 guys' basket. Good luck to you, New York Jets. To me, you want to talk about dysfunctional organizations and franchises. This is another example of the Jets being one of the most dysfunctional organizations in all of professional sports. I'm sorry. I know they hit a rough patch. You don't fire the head coach. You figure it out. You work together and you try to move the team forward and hopefully salvage things. Aaron Rodgers is the kind of guy that he's a coach killer. He's poison. Let's face it. He's absolute poison, and they just double down on him.
Well, you know what? It's funny too because and I'll admit it. You know, even as a diehard Patriots fan, like I wanted the Jets to be good, right? When they brought in Aaron Rodgers, I was like, you know what? This would be really good for the league. If Aaron Rodgers goes to the Jets and they're a powerhouse, they're competitive, they win some big games, like that's good for football. He gets hurt, and you say to yourself, "Oh my God, what awful luck!" It couldn't have happened to another team other than the Jets, right? Comes back this year, clearly struggling, uh, 2-3, and you know, I believe right 2-3, yeah,
Yep, two and three,
two and three,
100%.
and I say to myself, you know, my desire to see them be a good team has just gone out the window, and now I am fully relishing in their misery. Like this is a team that, you know, just what do they have to freaking do in order to get some positive traction in the Meadowlands? And I don't know what it is, but I'll tell you what, the defense was not the problem with this team. You hit the nail on the head. The offense is the problem. Aaron Rodgers and this team, he's not delivering as promised. And if they think that firing Robert Saleh is going to be the solution to their problems, I think they got another thing coming.
I love how the bar has moved for the Jets like consistently down the last like month and a half from we can win the Super Bowl to we can win the AFC East to maybe we can sneak in the playoffs to maybe we can salvage our season.
Yeah, isn't it's kind of crazy when you think about it. I mean, like how they've fallen in such a short period of time. But I mean, look, you know, obviously a long season left. There's a lot that can be done, but they're losing some really winnable games, games that they're expected to win. And it just seems like something is off with that team. Like Rodgers doesn't look happy. Like it's all over his face. And you gotta tell me, I mean, you can't tell me that frustration in that emotion from Aaron Rodgers, those negative vibes aren't spilling their way into the rest of the team in that locker room.
Rodgers has 0.0 chemistry with Garrett Wilson. Am I wrong? Like when you watch those two guys play together, don't they just look like two guys that just like not on the same page at all?
Yeah, seriously. I mean, it their connection. So like anything good that's happened has just been a product of the fact that he's a decent quarterback, you know, can still play pretty well. I don't know. I mean, you know, he doesn't look great, but and the fact that Garrett Wilson's really good, like that, it's just been talent. Like the talent is the only thing kind of propping them up right now. There's no chemistry. There's no rhythm. There's really nothing. And I think part of that is because this Jets team needs somebody else to step up and take some pressure and attention off of Garrett Wilson. I mean, they got guys like Alan Lazard, Mike Williams, like they need to step up and be respectable 2s and 3s because right now, I mean, the defense really doesn't have to worry about anybody else.
One of the huge plays in the game on Sunday was Aaron Rodgers throwing a back shoulder route to Mike Williams that he didn't turn around for. He just kept running.
Yeah.
It's like, how is that on Robert Saleh? That's the OC, that's the quarterback, that's the receiver.
Yep.
I'll give you one more take on the Jets, Justin, because I know this is serving you up an absolute softball, but I have to do it to you.
Yeah.
When do we initiate Aaron Rodgers as the professor emeritus of the Talented Loser Club?
You know what?
Right? 16 years since he's won a Super Bowl.
I know. You know, for me, I'm not ready to put him in there just yet. The guy has won a Super Bowl. He is coming off in Achilles tear, but he's very rapidly approaching that level of talented loser. I mean, when I think of talented, like here's my thing with Aaron Rodgers, right? Aaron Rodgers has not played very well, but he hasn't, for the most part. I mean, I know he threw a couple picks this last week, but for the most part, he hasn't been making costly mistakes or silly mistakes that have been, you know, super detrimental. Like, granted, he's missed a couple throws. There's situations he could have played better, but it's not like he's just doing like you're watching him going, what the hell is he doing? What the hell was he thinking? When I think of talented losers, I think about when I texted you last night, like Derek Carr, just
Yep.
no regard, reckless abandonment under pressure, just throwing the ball up in the air like kids playing jackpot at the recess yard. Uh, it was so stupid. So that's what I think. I think a talented loser is somebody who just can't seem to get out of their own way and is constantly doing the dumbest thing you've ever seen in a football field to find ways for their team to lose a game. Aaron Rodgers, to me, he's not quite at that point yet. He's just not playing like people expect the Aaron Rodgers of old to play.
The name that everyone thought of when we heard Robert Saleh was fired today was Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Is there any chance that Belichick would even look at the Jets? I don't think he would, because, I mean, that New York Jets franchise is like a friggin' Bermuda Triangle for coaches and quarterbacks. It sucks you in and it ruins you. Okay. Whether you look at what Sam Darnold's doing, Geno Smith in Seattle, right? Coaches that come there, their careers get ruined. It is a Bermuda Triangle for coaches and quarterbacks. Belichick at 73 years old, does he want to go to a franchise like that?
I mean, personally, I think it's better for him to go there than the Giants or maybe some of these other teams. I mean, look, I think the ego in him would love to be able to try to stick it to Robert Kraft and the Patriots twice a year. I think that's probably undeniable. I think that they do have. I mean, you talk about rosters that are kind of built to win now. I mean, they have their problems, but they also have their talent as well. That really just seems like a team that needs a culture, some sort of culture change and some sort of injection of life into them. But I don't know. It's definitely not the best fit for him, but I don't think it's the worst fit by any means.
41-year-old quarterback next year too. I mean,
yeah.
If you're Belichick, do you really want to get into that kind of situation? I mean, wouldn't it be something if he ended up there this year? Like, that would be crazy.
Right.
They're playing in Foxborough in 3 weeks, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Wouldn't that be quite the welcome back, right?
Yep.
Belichick.
By the way, Justin, I did take the Jets on the money line on Sunday morning. Terrible bet, but I had a chance at the end there.
You did have a chance. They clawed their way back into it. I mean, they made it a competitive game.
They did.
But Minnesota is looking legit. We've been questioning whether they're the real deal. I'm about ready to call them the real deal.
Agreed. I am, and I'm going to tell you why. We've heard so much about Sam Darnold and the receivers and the skill position guys. How about that defense?
Yeah.
How about what Brian Flores is doing with that defense? That defense won that game Sunday.
Yes.
They're the real deal.
100%.
All right, let's move on to the Bengals and the Ravens game. This is the game that, quite frankly, being at the Patriots game, I was most sad that I missed because this was a game for the ages. Who is the best team right now in the AFC right now, Justin? Is it the Bengals, the Chiefs, the Texans? The Ravens, the Chiefs, the Texans. The Ravens look like, I don't know. They look like they're catching their stride here early.
Yeah, Ravens are catching their stride. I think I'm hesitant to say it. I'm hesitant to say it, but I think this Houston Texans team is the best team in the AFC. And I don't think it's by a long shot. I think it's very close. I think the Ravens are up there. I think the Chiefs are still up there. I think the Bills are a good team, but the Texans to me are just a good combination of a good defense, a good head coach, really, really good poised quarterback, and weapons that can change a game. So I'm going to go with the Texans.
I don't fault that take. I think the Ravens and the Texans are probably the two best teams in the AFC right now. It's hard for me to pick between the two. I still don't count out Mahomes and Andy Reid together. And as much as people, they haven't looked good, the Chiefs haven't looked good on offense the last few weeks, the reality is they're still winning, and it's not like they're that bad. I mean, they scored 26 points last night against the Saints defense. That's a pretty good defense. I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, you can't count that Chiefs team out.
No, you can't. The reason why you can't is because they have very cleverly over the last 2 years built one of the better defenses in football. And so as long as they continue to have a trustworthy, reliable defense, Mahomes and Andy Reid will find ways to win you big games when they need to. So that's why I think they're still dangerous. I don't care who gets hurt in their receiving core or their running backs.
Let's move to Washington, Cleveland, Justin. And this game very much a tale of two cities, two very different franchises going in very different directions. On the side of the Washington Commanders, you have Jaden Daniels, who has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL through 5 weeks. Forget rookie of the year. You are hearing run right now for Jaden Daniels as MVP, which is hard to believe for a rookie quarterback. Justin, your take on this Commanders team and Jaden Daniels as a potential MVP candidate?
I like Jaden Daniels. I do, and you know me. I've liked him since the draft.
Yep.
I
Throws the
don't.
ball well. He
Yeah,
throws not just late. He really throws the ball well.
he does. He does. I don't. I don't know if I'd call him the MVP quite yet. I get it. I understand why his name's being thrown around in that conversation. I think he'll hands down wind up being the offensive rookie of the year. MVP, I think he'll wind up getting nudged out at some point. You know, it's the Commanders. They also haven't had the toughest opening schedule. I mean, don't get me wrong; they've played a couple decent teams, but I, I think the Commanders will come back down to earth a little bit. I mean, they're a 4-1 team right now. I don't think this is a 12, 11, 13 win ball club. I think they're probably gonna be in like the 8 to 10 win range when it's all said and done.
Perhaps, but that division is now wide open all of a sudden because
Oh yeah,
I don't think Dallas is that good.
no.
And Philadelphia is struggling. And the Giants, we know what they are. So I feel like, why not the Commanders?
Oh, I mean, they are lucking out big time in the sense that the two top dogs in that division are kind of crumbling. I think I still don't believe in the Cowboys. I know they beat Pittsburgh the other night. I don't believe in them. And I think the Eagles are going to continue to get worse as this season goes along. I think
Yeah.
Sirianni is another one of those head coaches that's probably in the chopping block. And I think just the culture and everything is a mess right now in Philly. They can't get it together.
No question about that. They look like, I mean, they look like they have major issues in that Philadelphia locker room. What about the Cleveland Browns, Justin? I mean, what the hell is that franchise going to do? How long are they going to roll with Deshaun Watson? You've got Jameis Winston as the backup. I think we said it 3 weeks ago, and they're still committed to Deshaun Watson as a starter. I feel like that team could not be any worse than what they are with Jameis Winston as a quarterback.
Yeah, yeah. They gotta cut ties. They gotta pull. You know what they gotta do what Denver did with Russell Wilson and just say, look, we screwed up. We locked ourselves
Yep,
into a
that's
bad
right.
contract, and we have to move on because there's no benefit in having him on the team. He's a distraction. I think he's a cancer in the field and in the locker room. He clearly cannot play anymore. You gotta cut ties. You gotta move on ASAP. Get Jameis Winston in there. At least that's somebody who can move the offense and sling the ball. You got weapons. You might as well put somebody in there who can get the ball to them.
I mean, it's a lesson really, not just for football, but for life in general. Like, you can't chase your mistakes with more mistakes. If you made an epically huge mistake with Deshaun Watson, it's abundantly clear how long you're going to keep banging your head against the wall and giving him another opportunity to fail you. At some point, you just have to cut your losses and stop doubling down on the fact that they made maybe the worst trade in NFL history.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? There's really nothing that can be done to fix this situation right now. The Deshaun Watson era in Cleveland has to come to an end. And you know what? I feel bad because that's a pretty talented roster, and they're just totally wasting their season.
Yeah, I mean, you knew the tell that this was all going to fall apart this year. And you never know for sure, but the tell was when Joe Flacco came in last year when Watson got hurt,
Yep.
and all of a sudden that team made the playoffs, and they were a better team with like 39-year-old Joe Flacco that no one had heard from for 4, 5, 6 years.
Yep.
that was a huge tell that there was something majorly wrong with Deshaun Watson. And it's just certainly continued into this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
All right, let's move to. I'll give you credit. This is one you were 100% right about. You called this in our NFL preview edition. San Francisco 49ers lost a tough game to Arizona at home this week, 24-23. Game-winning kick, by the way, kicked by former New England Patriot Chad Ryland for the Arizona Cardinals. The 49ers fall to 2-3. They suddenly, I think, are playing for their season tomorrow or 2 nights from now, Thursday night at Seattle. Justin, your thoughts on this 49ers team? You predicted that they were going to have a tough year this year.
Well, look, I think it was kind of a two-prong approach, right? I just couldn't picture them staying healthy for another year, which they haven't been, right? They're clearly having issues with some of their stars being healthy. And I just wondered how many times can you get that close and fall short before it starts to break you a little bit. And I think, I don't want to pull the panic alarm just yet because we've seen the 49ers have some early season dips the last couple of years and they recover from it typically. But they recover from it because they're healthy, because their guys are good to go. I just don't know if they're going to make that same type of bounce back this year. I think the 49ers are not the team that people think that they might be.
The only thing that might save them this year, even if they lose on Thursday in Seattle, they'll fall to 2-4. That division is really garbage. Yeah. I mean, I thought Arizona was going to be better. I know they beat the 49ers, but I still think things have been very choppy with that team. Seattle's okay, but I think they're going to fall back. They lost to the Giants this week. And then the Rams, I was wrong. I said they were going to be one of the best teams in the NFC. They've been ravaged by injuries, but they have certainly proven me very wrong. They actually suck. So that division, I don't think anyone's running away with it.
No, that's going to be a competitive division, I think. And it's going to be because there's going to be nobody that's able to pull away and separate themselves from the pack.
How about the Sunday night game, Justin? Cowboys at Steelers. I find the Steelers find themselves in a little bit of conundrum here. On one sense, they are 3-2, started off the year 3-0. Justin Fields has been okay. He hasn't been great, and they're not scoring a lot of points. That's the thing. Fields has played better than I think expected, but they're still near the bottom of the league in scoring. Are they going to start thinking about bringing Russell Wilson, or do they roll with Justin Fields?
It's a tough situation. I think at a certain point you might have to look into bringing Russell Wilson. I mean, it really just depends. If you ask yourself, are we at a point where things are looking up or down? And I think what we're seeing from Justin Fields is that he's coming back down to earth. He's not, we talk about this resurgence. He's not a franchise quarterback. He's got some talent. He's an athletic guy, but he's not the guy that you need to go out and lead you to success this season. Russell Wilson, he hasn't done it lately, but he's done it before. Justin Fields has never had. I think if Justin Fields starts to fall off the cliff like he has been, I think you got to think about bringing Russell Wilson in and changing it up.
The Steelers have only scored 92 points this year, by the way, for the record.
And they have played some good teams, some good defenses. I will say that. But look, Justin Fields just is not. He's not the guy. And I think.
Yeah. See, I agree and I disagree. I agree Justin Fields is not the guy. I think he's a super overrated player. I don't see the high upside on him that some people see. He was a first-round pick. People can't get over it. He's not that good. But if my choice is between Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, I'm going with Justin Fields. I've never been a huge fan of his, but I do think he's played well this year. And I think we've seen in the last 5 weeks the best 5-week stretch of Justin Fields' career. It's like choosing between two. It's like choosing between like diarrhea and a cold. It's like, what would you rather? It's like there's no good choice. What would you rather have? And the choice is like neither. But if you have to pick, yes, I'm taking Justin Fields.
Yeah, you know what? That's where you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I think you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't in that situation.
I mean, the larger question is how the Steelers didn't bring in a real answer, a quarterback with a pretty good team.
Yeah, I think I think they got a lot of credit for making those moves, and I think it was unjust because they really brought in two guys who were at, very low points in their careers, and everybody was talking about the Russell Wilson, Justin Fields quarterback competition. And to me, I'm sitting there thinking, I mean, I think you kind of got two losers no matter which way you slice it.
Yeah, I think that's right. All right, Justin, let's take a quick look ahead for next week. What do you like? Anything on the board? Did you look at any of the numbers this week for lines? First of all, how did you do betting this past week?
So you know what? This was actually, I like to say, this was the coveted perfect football weekend. And I like to say that the perfect football weekend, it doesn't happen often, but it's when you win in every single one of your fantasy leagues. So went 4-0 this weekend, and you make money gambling. And I made money gambling this weekend on football. So it was
You're
the
in
perfect.
4 fantasy leagues?
Yeah. Four fantasy leagues: a dynasty, a redraft, a work league, and then a fourth league that I run, which is actually a fantasy league. But each week you draft a DraftKings lineup and you go ahead.
But how does that all tease out? Don't you have players going against like players on your other teams?
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
So who did you take this weekend, and who did you win on?
So you know what? I didn't go crazy. I went with my gut, and my gut told me that Joe Burrow is going to be a Raven killer. He has been his entire career. I bet I bet on him straight up to have 2 or more passing touchdowns, and then I did a parlay, 2 or more passing touchdowns, over 257 passing yards, and a T. Higgins anytime touchdown.
And that was it?
That was it. I didn't go crazy. I stuck with what I was confident in, and they both hit.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I said last week on the podcast that I liked the Bengals in that game, as sometimes wants to happen with me. I changed my mind 180 degrees throughout the course of the week. So I ended up taking the Ravens in that game. I hit on that. I loved the Texans against the Bills. That was my bet of the week last week. I hit on that. Lost on the Jets and the money line in the morning. And then I, for some reason, had this rock-headed idea to take the Raiders at 4:00, and that just like completely fell apart.
Yeah, it's you know what, it's that game could have gone either way. I had the Denver defense, so I was rooting for Denver, but I didn't touch the game. I didn't bet it. I actually didn't even bet the 4:00 games. I made my money in the 1:00 window, and then I spent the rest of the day just enjoying football.
Yeah, that's not a bad place to be. Do you like anything this week?
You know what? Nothing. I haven't extensively looked at anything yet. But I will say I think there's some interesting matchups. I don't like to bet against the Patriots, but I think Houston -7 looks pretty good, to be completely honest.
Interesting.
But yeah, nothing.
I thought the number was a little low. I thought it should be higher.
That's what I'm saying. I think the Patriots should. I mean the Texans should have been like a 9-10 point favorite. But
yeah.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now that looking at DraftKings, the money is going towards the Patriots, which is kind of weird.
Interesting. Well, I will not be doing that. But I also
nope, I take that back. 100. Oh, let's see. On the spread line, nope. 76% going to Houston. Totally wrong. Okay. Forget I said that.
That makes a little
all the money's going on Houston.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I looked at the numbers this week, and it's like one of those weeks where there was literally nothing that I liked on the board. And usually when I have those weeks, if I was smart, what I would do is not touch anything, because this usually is the week that I go like 1-5. So I think I'm just going to stay out of trouble this week and just sit back and watch.
Yeah. You know what? Not a bad place to be. You know, take a reset, reevaluate, give yourself a week off, and get some positive juju coming.
Well, this is what happens. Like, this is like the time of year when, you think you know what's going on in the league, and then everything just goes like ass over tea kettle, falls apart.
Exactly. It's about that
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, brother. Anything else? We're going to wrap it up. Any other thoughts? NFL, the Patriots, Drake Maye, Jacoby Brissett, Gerard Maye.
No, that's it. I think we hit on it. But yeah, excited for the Drake Maye era to begin in New England.
I'm very excited for the Drake Maye era to begin in New England. I have low expectations, and hopefully we will all be pleasantly surprised with what we see this Sunday.
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to wrap it up. Thank everyone that watched or listened. Have a great week, everyone. And we will catch you next week with a new edition of the Dr. Football / Ultimate Patriots podcast. Have a great week, everyone.